Imagine waking up tomorrow and your smartphone doesn't work. Your car won't start. Hospitals can't operate their equipment. The entire internet slows to a crawl. This isn't science fiction. This is what happens if one island, smaller than West Virginia, stops producing computer chips for just 30 days. Taiwan makes over 90% of the world's advanced semiconductors. But economists are now asking a terrifying question. What if the same strategy that made Taiwan rich is about to make them irrelevant? Today, I'm going to show you how putting all your eggs in one basket can build an empire and destroy it just as fast. Before we dive in, quick reminder, I'm not a financial advisor. This is educational content analyzing economic patterns using publicly available data. Do your own research. Here's what we're covering today. How one country became the world's chip factory, why that's both brilliant and terrifying, and what happens when your greatest strength becomes your greatest weakness. Let's start with a story from 1959 that explains everything. The year is 1959. The Netherlands just discovered massive natural gas deposits under the North Sea. Economists predicted prosperity. Politicians celebrated. The future looked golden. And at first, they were right. Export revenues exploded. Government budgets swelled. Everything seemed perfect. Then something strange started happening. Dutch factories began closing. Not because they were inefficient. Not because of competition. They closed because the Netherlands was getting too rich. Here's the economic mechanism. And it's important because the same thing might be happening to Taiwan right now. When gas exports brought money flooding into the Netherlands, demand for Dutch currency skyrocketed. When demand for your currency goes up, your currency becomes more valuable. Sound good, right? Strong currency? But here's the catch. When your currency gets stronger, everything you make becomes more expensive for foreign buyers. Your cars, your furniture, your machinery. Suddenly they all cost more than competitors' products. Within 10 years, Dutch manufacturing collapsed. Not from failure, but from success in one sector killing everything else. In 1977, economists gave this phenomenon a name, Dutch disease. The definition: when booming in one industry accidentally destroys the rest of your economy. Now, keep that concept in your head, because Taiwan might have the most extreme case of Dutch disease in modern history. Let me take you back to 1950s Taiwan. The island had just lost the Chinese Civil War. Millions of refugees. Barely any industry. GDP per capita around $200, roughly the same as the poorest countries in Africa. Fast forward to 2024, GDP per capita over $35,000. Higher than Spain, higher than Italy. How did this happen? Taiwan didn't discover oil. They didn't find gold. They made a strategic bet on brainpower and manufacturing precision. First, they dominated textiles in the 1960s. Then electronics assembly in the 1970s. Then something changed in the 1980s. The Taiwanese government made a calculated decision. We're going to become the world's semiconductor manufacturer. In 1987, they founded TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. The business model was revolutionary. TSMC wouldn't design chips. They would only manufacture them. And they would manufacture them better than anyone else on Earth. Apple designs chips. TSMC makes them. NVIDIA designs chips. TSMC makes them. AMD, Qualcomm, MediaTek, they all design. TSMC makes. By 2024, TSMC's market value hit $800 billion. That's larger than the entire economy of many countries. But here's the number that should alarm you. TSMC alone represents about 15% of Taiwan's entire GDP. One company, 15% of the economy. And semiconductors overall, over 20% of Taiwan's total economic output. To put that in perspective, imagine if Apple represented 15% of the entire U.S. economy. That's Taiwan's situation. So let's check if Taiwan has Dutch disease. There are 3 clear symptoms. Warning sign 1. Currency gets too strong. When you export something everyone desperately needs, foreign money floods in. Everyone wants your currency to buy your product. Your currency value shoots up. Taiwan has been fighting this for years. The Taiwanese central bank holds over $550 billion in foreign reserves, one of the largest stockpiles on Earth. Why? Because they're constantly selling Taiwanese dollars and buying foreign currency to prevent their money from appreciating too much. Why does this matter? Because if the Taiwan dollar gets too expensive, every other Taiwanese export becomes uncompetitive. Taiwanese bicycles suddenly cost more than Chinese ones. Taiwanese machinery costs more than Korean alternatives. Industry dies. Warning sign 2. All the talent goes to one sector. This is happening in Taiwan right now. If you're a top engineering graduate in Taiwan, you have two realistic choices. Work at TSMC or a semiconductor company for high pay, or work in traditional industries for half the salary. Where do you think the best talent goes? The result? Every other industry slowly loses its competitive edge because it can't attract top people. Textiles? Can't compete with Vietnam's wages. Basic electronics? Can't compete with China's scale. Traditional machinery? Losing ground to Korea and Japan. Warning sign 3. Government becomes dependent on one industry. When one sector pays a huge portion of your taxes, the government's survival depends on that sector thriving. The semiconductor industry pays roughly 20% of all corporate taxes in Taiwan. Government research spending? Over 40% goes to semiconductor-related projects. What happens if there's a downturn? What happens if the industry faces a crisis? The government's entire budget is at risk. This is exactly what Dutch disease looks like. All three symptoms are present. But Taiwan's version has a twist that makes it far more dangerous than anything the Netherlands faced. There's a theory that Taiwan's chip dominance actually protects them. It's called the silicon shield. The logic goes like this. Taiwan makes chips that are so advanced and so irreplaceable that attacking the island would crash the global economy. Think about it. Your smartphone? Taiwanese chips. Your car's computer? Taiwanese chips. Amazon servers? Taiwanese chips. F-35 fighter jets? Taiwanese chips. Destroy Taiwan's chip factories, and within months, you'd see. Smartphone production stops worldwide. Car manufacturing grinds to a halt. Data centers can't expand. Military equipment can't be built. The entire global economy, including any potential aggressor's economy, collapses. That's the shield. Economic mutually assured destruction. But here's the problem. That shield is cracking. The United States just passed the CHIPS Act. $52 billion to build chip factories in America. Europe committed 43 billion euros to build their own chip industry. Japan is subsidizing new factories. South Korea is massively expanding. Every single major economy is racing to reduce dependence on Taiwan. Every factory that opens in Arizona, every chip made in Japan, every production line in Germany, weakens Taiwan's shield slightly. The shield still exists today, but it's on a countdown. And that creates a terrifying economic question. If Taiwan concentrated everything on chips, because chips protected them, and then the world builds chips elsewhere, what happens to Taiwan? Taiwan isn't blind to this risk. They're actively trying to diversify. First, biotech and pharmaceuticals. Taiwan is pouring money into biotech. They're leveraging their precision manufacturing expertise from chips to make pharmaceuticals. The logic makes sense. If you can manufacture a 3-nanometer chip, you can definitely handle precision pharmaceutical manufacturing. Second, green energy. Taiwan is surrounded by some of the best offshore wind resources in the world. They're building massive wind farms. Why? Because Taiwan imports 98% of its energy. That's another massive strategic vulnerability. Wind power could reduce that dependency. Third, AI hardware ecosystem. Taiwan isn't just making AI chips. They're building the entire infrastructure around AI, cooling systems, power management, specialized hardware. Companies like MediaTek are designing mid-range AI chips. Taiwan is trying to own the whole stack, not just manufacturing. These efforts are real. The Taiwanese government is strategically aware. But here's the hard truth. TSMC's gravity is so strong that everything else operates in its shadow. All of Taiwan's biotech companies combined are worth maybe $50 billion. Renewable energy sector? Maybe $20 billion. TSMC alone is worth $800 billion. The gap is massive, and closing it takes decades, time Taiwan might not have. Here's why this matters beyond Taiwan. This pattern has destroyed economies throughout history. Spain in the 1500s dominated silver from the Americas. The flood of silver caused massive inflation and destroyed Spanish manufacturing. Within a century, Spain went from global superpower to economic irrelevance. Britain in the 1800s was the workshop of the world. They dominated steel, textiles, steam engines. Then Germany industrialized. America industrialized. Britain couldn't adapt fast enough because they concentrated on existing industries. The Netherlands in the 1960s discovered gas and accidentally killed their manufacturing through currency appreciation. The pattern is always the same: dominate one thing. Let everything else atrophy. When the dominant thing faces competition or crisis, you have nothing left to fall back on. Taiwan is brilliant. Taiwan is strategic. Taiwan has some of the best economic planners on Earth. But fighting economic gravity is incredibly difficult. So does Taiwan have Dutch disease? Yes. All three symptoms are present: strong currency pressure, talent flowing to one sector, and government dependency on chip exports. But Taiwan's situation is different. For the Netherlands, Dutch disease meant economic pain. For Taiwan, it's about survival. Here's the irony. The same chips that made Taiwan indispensable also made them vulnerable. Economic history has one clear lesson: putting all your eggs in one basket works brilliantly until it doesn't. And by the time you realize you need backup options, it's often too late. If you found this valuable, hit that like button and subscribe and more. Thanks for watching.